Apply. Some moments in history are not just battles, they are turning points. Moments when empires rose, when kingdoms collapsed, and when the destiny of nations was rewritten forever. Apply. Imagine the clash of steel, the roar of warriors, and the silence that followed victory or defeat. These aren't just wars, they are the echoes of courage, sacrifice, betrayal, apply, and fate. Tonight we journey back through time across blood-soaked fields, towering walls, and fiery landscapes to uncover the epic battles that changed the world forever. Apply. Close your eyes and picture it. The year is 480 BC. The sun rises over the rugged cliffs of Thermopylae, the hot gates, a narrow pass where the mountains crush against the sea. Apply. The world is trembling under the shadow of Xerxes, the Persian king whose empire stretches farther than any before him. Hundreds of thousands of his soldiers march like a tide. Apply. Their armor glinting like fire beneath the sky. To the Greeks, it seems as though the gods themselves have sent an unstoppable force. Yet in this tiny mountain pass, apply, only a few thousand men have gathered to resist, led by a warrior king who would become a legend, Leonidas of Sparta. Apply. Imagine the silence before the storm, the wind carrying the faint clash of armor, the scent of salt, and earth heavy in the air. The Persians, confident in their sheer numbers, apply, expect the Greeks to scatter. But the Spartans stand tall, shields interlocked, spears pointed forward, their red cloaks flowing behind them like rivers of blood yet to be spilled. Apply. For them, this is not just war. This is destiny carved into the stones of their training, their oaths, their honor. To retreat is unthinkable. To die is acceptable. Apply. To stand firm, inevitable. And then the earth shakes, Persian drums thunder, arrows darken the skies, and the battle erupts. Wave after wave crashes against the Spartan wall of shields. Apply. The Persians, stunned, cannot break through. Spears pierce through armor, shields bash against faces, and the narrow pass betrays their numbers, turning their advantage into chaos. Apply. Men fall, screams rise, and for a moment it seems as though a miracle is unfolding. 300 Spartans, supported by a few allies, apply, are holding back the largest army the world had ever seen. Word spreads like fire through Greece. The impossible has happened. The great Persian war machine is being stalled by courage. Apply. Discipline and unbreakable resolve. Leonidas fights at the front, his spear flashing, his commands echoing like thunder against the cliffs. Every strike, every breath, apply is a defiance of fate itself. And for 2 days, the unthinkable continues. The mighty Persian Empire, humiliated by the will of free men who refuse to bow. Apply. But betrayal is always near when empires clash. A Greek traitor seeking reward reveals a hidden mountain path. The Persians move silently through the night, encircling the defenders. Apply. Dawn breaks and Leonidas knows the pass is lost. Death is certain, yet surrender is not a word carved into Spartan hearts. He turns to his men, not with despair, apply, but with fire in his eyes. Eat well, he is said to have told them, for tonight we dine in Hades. The final stand begins. The Spartans discard broken spears, pick up swords, apply rocks, even their bare hands. They fight until their shields splinter, until their bodies collapse, until the last man falls. And as the dust settles, apply. Their sacrifice burns brighter than any victory. Thermopylae was not the end of Greece. It was the spark. Apply. Their defiance gave the Greek city-states the time and inspiration they needed to rally, to unite, and to eventually drive back the Persian invasion. Centuries later, apply. The story still lives, etched into marble, written in songs, remembered in whispers of bravery. The Battle of Thermopylae was not about numbers. It was about the spirit of resistance. Apply. The idea that freedom, once challenged, can summon a strength that defies empires. And though Leonidas and his warriors fell, their stand forever changed the course of history. Apply. Proving that sometimes 300 can stand against 1,000,000 and win not by survival but by immortality. The year is 1066, and England is a land balanced on the edge of destiny. Apply. The throne has been left empty after the death of King Edward the Confessor, and with no clear heir, the realm is thrust into turmoil. 3 men claim the crown: Harold Godwinson. Apply. The powerful English noble who seizes it, Harold Hardrada, the fierce Viking king of Norway, and William, the Duke of Normandy, across the sea in France. Apply. Each believes the crown is rightfully his. Each prepares to stake his claim in blood. In September, Harold defeats Hardrada in the north at Stamford Bridge. Apply. A victory that comes at a terrible cost. His army, exhausted and battered, has little time to recover when news reaches him. Apply. William has landed on the southern coast with a mighty Norman force. Harold marches his men the length of England in less than 2 weeks, racing against time to defend his kingdom. Apply. When he arrives near the town of Hastings, history takes its breath. What happens next will shape the future not only of England, but of Europe itself. Apply. The battlefield rises on a grassy hill. Harold's English army, mostly infantry, forms a shield wall, men shoulder to shoulder, shields locked, axes and swords ready. Apply. It is a wall of defiance, unmoving and unbreakable. At the base of the hill, William's Normans gather with knights on horseback, archers with bows strung tight. Apply, and infantry ready to climb. The clash is not just of armies, but of worlds, the old Anglo-Saxon way of life against the growing power of feudal Europe. The horns sound, apply, and the Normans surge forward. Arrows rain down, but the shield wall holds. Cavalry charges up the slope, only to be driven back by axes and spears. Again and again, apply. The English repel the assault, their wall a fortress of flesh and iron. For hours the battle rages, and the Normans begin to falter. Rumors whisper that William has been slain. Apply, and panic ripples through his army. But the Duke, unhorsed but unbroken, rips off his helmet and rides before his men, shouting, showing his face, his defiance. Apply. He will not fall, not today. Then comes cunning, a twist of fate on the battlefield. The Normans feign retreat, pretending to flee in terror. The English, their blood hot with victory, apply, break formation and pursue. The shield wall shatters, discipline dissolves, and in that moment the trap is sprung. The Norman cavalry wheels around, cutting down the scattered English. Apply. The tide is turned. The battle reaches its climax as both sides fight to exhaustion. The English king Harold stands firm, rallying his men, but then, in a moment seared into legend, apply, an arrow finds his eye. He falls, and with him the heart of the English resistance crumbles. One by one, the defenders are cut down, the hill soaked in blood, until only silence remains. Apply. William, the Duke of Normandy, stands victorious. Soon he will be crowned William the Conqueror, King of England. But his victory is more than a crown, it is a transformation. Apply. The Norman conquest reshapes England forever, bringing new language, laws, castles, and culture. The Anglo-Saxon age ends, and a new era begins. Apply. One that will ripple through centuries of history. The Battle of Hastings is remembered not just as the day a crown was won, but as the moment a nation was reborn. Apply. It is the clash where cunning outmaneuvered courage, where ambition redrew the map of a kingdom, and where a single arrow decided the fate of a people. And from that hill in 1066, apply. The echoes still reach us, reminding us that sometimes the destiny of nations is written in the dust of a battlefield. The year is 1453. Apply. And the city that once stood as the crown of empires faces its final dawn. Constantinople, the jewel of Byzantium, the bridge between East and West. Apply. The fortress of Christianity stands surrounded. For more than 1,000 years, its walls have defied armies, storms, and time itself. But now on the horizon, a new power rises. Apply. The Ottomans, led by a young and relentless Sultan Mehmed II. He is only 21, yet his ambition burns like wildfire. His dream is not just to take the city, apply, but to end an era and begin another. The siege begins with thunder the world has never heard before. Cannon's massive iron beasts are rolled into place. Among them, apply, a monstrous bombard so large it takes hundreds of oxen to move. Day and night they roar, apply, hurling stone shot heavier than men against the Theodosian walls that for centuries had been thought unbreakable. Each strike shakes the earth, sends dust into the air, apply, and chips away at the pride of an empire. Still, the defenders, Greeks, Venetians, and Genoese, fight with desperate courage, patching holes, raising walls of rubble, apply, holding back wave after wave of Ottoman assaults. Inside the city, hope flickers like a dying flame, supplies dwindle, prayers rise from Hagia Sophia, and citizens look to their emperor. Apply. Constantine exile for strength. He knows what is at stake, not only his throne, but the soul of a civilization. By torchlight, he walks the walls, speaking to soldiers by name. Apply. Fighting beside them, reminding them that their cause is greater than life itself. His words inspire, but even he knows the truth. This is not just a siege, it is the end of a world. Apply. Weeks pass and the city bleeds. The sea, once the lifeline of Constantinople, is sealed by a chain across the Golden Horn, but even that is outwitted. Apply. Mehmed orders ships dragged overland, across greased logs, around the chain, and into the harbor. When dawn reveals Ottoman sails where none should be, apply, terror spreads through the defenders. Every move of the young sultan is bold, ruthless, unstoppable. On the night of May 28th, a final mass is held in Hagia Sophia. Greeks, Latins, apply. Citizens and soldiers gather together, enemies in faith reconciled by the shadow of death. They embrace, they weep, they pray beneath the great dome, knowing it may be their last dawn. Apply. Emperor Constantine is said to lay aside his crown, to fight not as a ruler, but as a soldier among his people. Before the sun rises, the assault begins. Apply. The ground quakes as cannon fire shakes the air, ladders slam against walls, and the cries of thousands fill the sky. The first waves are repelled, then the second, Apply. But the walls, torn and broken, cannot withstand forever. A breach opens and through it pours the Ottoman tide. The defenders fight with fury, but it is not enough. Apply. Constantine disappears into the chaos of battle, his fate sealed in legend, his body never found. The last emperor of Byzantium dies as the city falls around him. By mid-morning, apply. The banner of the crescent rises above the walls. The great city, once the center of the Christian world, has fallen. Mehmed rides through its gates, not just as a conqueror, apply, but as the founder of a new empire. Hagia Sophia is transformed, its echoes of prayer replaced with new voices. The fall of Constantinople marks not just the end of Byzantium, apply, but the beginning of the Ottoman age. The world feels the tremor. Trade routes shift. Scholars flee to the west, carrying with them knowledge that will spark the Renaissance. Apply. Maps are redrawn, powers recalculated, and history itself pivots. From that moment, the Middle Ages close and a new era begins. Constantinople did not simply fall, it was reborn. Apply. Its ashes feeding the fire of transformation. And though its walls crumbled, its legacy stretched far beyond its gates, proving that when one world ends, another always begins. Apply. The year is 1815, and Europe trembles beneath the shadow of one man, Napoleon Bonaparte. He has risen from obscurity, crowned himself emperor, conquered nations. Apply, and rewritten the map of Europe. Twice, his enemies thought him finished. Twice, they exiled him to an island. Yet here he stands again, returned from Elba. Apply. His charisma rekindling loyalty, his genius rallying armies, his ambition burning as fiercely as ever. For 100 days he has reclaimed his throne. But now, apply. In the fields of Belgium, destiny waits. It is June 18th and the air is heavy with rain. The battlefield at Waterloo is soaked and muddy, the ground sucking at boots and hooves alike. Apply. Across the fields, two great forces prepare to decide the fate of Europe. On one side, Napoleon commands the French, veterans hardened by years of war. Apply, their banners still carrying the pride of empire. On the other, the Duke of Wellington leads a coalition of British, Dutch, and German troops holding the ridge with grim determination. Apply, and somewhere beyond the horizon another army moves, Prussians under Marshal Bleicher racing to join the fight. Morning comes slowly, the wet earth delaying Napoleon's cannons. Apply. Hours pass and the soldiers wait in tense silence, staring across fields that will soon run red. At last the order is given. French guns open fire. Apply. Thunder rolling across the countryside. Infantry surges forward, drums beating, bayonets fixed. They crash into the Allied lines, but the ridge holds. Smoke thickens, cries echo. Apply, and the battle begins its bloody rhythm. The French cavalry charge again, and again waves of armored horsemen galloping into the English squares. The ground shakes beneath their hooves. Apply. Lances flash in the rain-soaked light, but the squares do not break. Walls of men bristling with bayonets absorb the fury, repelling the cavalry with a storm of musket fire. Apply. Time and again the French ride, and time and again they are hurled back, the field littered with broken horses and fallen men. Wellington watches from his position on the ridge. Apply. Calm but wary. He knows his army is stretched to its limits, battered, holding by sheer will. He knows that every minute survived brings the Prussians closer. Napoleon knows it too. Apply. He must break the enemy before reinforcements arrive. And so late in the afternoon he makes his final gamble. The Imperial Guard, his most elite soldiers, march forward. Apply. These are the men who never break, the core of his legend. They advance with steady steps, their columns like a dark wave rolling uphill. For a moment, silence grips the field. Apply, as if all of Europe holds its breath. Then musket fire erupts, tearing through the ranks. Smoke blinds the hillside, but still they come. They climb, they fight. Apply. They push against the Allied line. The outcome of the battle hangs by a thread. And then a shout rings out, "La garde recule!" The guard retreats. The impossible has happened. Apply. Napoleon's invincible guard turns and falls back. Panic spreads like fire through the French ranks. Discipline shatters. What was once an army becomes a fleeing mass. Apply. The cries of "Sauve qui peut," every man for himself, echoing across the fields. The Prussians arrive, hammering the retreat. The French Empire collapses in a single evening. Apply. Napoleon escapes, but his dream dies here in the mud and smoke of Waterloo. Within weeks, he will surrender and be sent to St. Helena, never to return. Europe, scarred but unbroken. Apply. Reshapes itself in the aftermath, the balance of power restored. Waterloo is remembered as more than just a battle. It is a symbol, the end of an era, the fall of a giant. Apply. The moment when ambition met its final reckoning. And in that storm-lashed field in Belgium, the echoes still whisper, empires rise, emperors fall. Apply. But history remembers the day when the world changed forever. The summer of 1942 and the vast eastern front of World War II is ablaze. Hitler's army is confident and relentless. Apply. Pushed deep into Soviet territory, their eyes are fixed on a city by the Volga River, a city bearing the name of the Soviet leader himself, Stalingrad. Apply. To take it would not only cut vital supply lines, but deliver a symbolic blow so crushing that it could shatter Soviet morale. Yet to Stalin, the city cannot fall. Apply. To defend it is to defend the honor, the survival, the very soul of the Soviet Union. What follows is not merely a battle, but a brutal contest of endurance. Apply. One of the deadliest struggles in human history. At first, the Luftwaffe rains fire from the skies. Bombs reduce the city to rubble, twisting steel, shattering concrete. Apply, leaving streets unrecognizable. But the ruins become a fortress. Soviet soldiers, civilians, and even children dig trenches, set traps. Apply, and prepare for a fight in every shattered building. When the German infantry enters, they find not a city, but a labyrinth of destruction where danger waits behind every corner. Apply, every wall, every shadow. Fighting erupts in what soldiers call Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. Snipers lurk in broken windows, grenades roll down staircases. Apply. Machine guns blaze from the basements of collapsed factories. A single block can be fought over for days, sometimes weeks, changing hands again and again. The Volga River, Apply, frozen and deadly, becomes the lifeline of the defenders. Barges carrying reinforcements and supplies under constant bombardment. To cross it is near suicide, yet still men go. Apply, knowing the city's fate depends on the Germans' advance, but progress slows to a crawl. The Soviets refuse to yield. Order 227. Apply, Stalin's infamous decree, not one step back, rings through the ranks. Deserters are shot, cowards executed, yet many need no order. Apply, they fight with the desperation of men defending their homes, their families, their country. Women take up rifles, children carry ammunition. Apply, factory workers continue building weapons even as bombs fall around them. Winter descends, harsh and merciless, snow covers the ruins, and temperatures plunge far below freezing. Apply, German soldiers, ill-prepared, shiver in thin uniforms, frostbite gnawing at their flesh. The Soviets endure, fueled by resolve and aided by the bitter cold. Then, in November, Apply, the trap closes. Soviet forces launch Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive that encircles the German 6th Army. The hunters become the hunted. Apply, trapped inside the city they thought they had conquered. Desperation grips the German command. Supplies run thin, hunger ravages the ranks, ammunition dwindles. Apply, Hitler orders them to stand fast, promising relief that never comes. The once proud 6th Army, hundreds of thousands strong, withers within the frozen ruins. Disease spreads. Apply, horses are slaughtered for food. Soldiers scavenge for scraps in a city that has become their graveyard. In January 1943, the Soviets tighten the noose. Street by street, Apply, building by building, the Germans are crushed. Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus, appointed by Hitler with the expectation that he would never surrender, faces the unthinkable. Surrounded, Apply, starving, hopeless, he capitulates. 90,000 German soldiers lay down their arms, broken remnants of an army that had once been unstoppable. The cost is unimaginable. Apply, nearly 2 million lives lost, soldiers and civilians alike. Entire divisions erased, families torn apart, a city reduced to ashes. Yet from that inferno, a turning point emerges. Apply, Stalingrad breaks the myth of Nazi invincibility. It is the beginning of the end for Hitler's empire. Apply, a battle that shifts the momentum of the war and sets the Red Army on a march that will one day end in Berlin. Stalingrad is remembered not simply as a victory, Apply, but as a testament to human endurance, the will to resist, to survive, to fight on even when all hope seems gone. Among the rubble of a city that refused to die, history was rewritten. Apply, and the world changed forever. June 6, 1944, the world holds its breath. In the darkness of early dawn, thousands of ships gather in the English Channel. Apply, their lights barely flickering against the stormy seas. Inside, young men wait in silence, their faces pale, their hands gripping rifles, their thoughts torn between fear and duty. Apply, this is the day they've trained for, the day the fate of the war depends upon. The largest seaborne invasion in history is about to begin. The code name, Operation Overlord. The place, Apply, Normandy. The mission, liberation. As the first light of morning breaks, the horizon comes alive with fire. Allied bombers roar overhead, pounding German defenses. Apply, naval guns unleash thunder across the coastline. And then the ramps drop, landing craft slam against the beaches, and men charge in a storm of bullets and shells. The sea runs red. Apply, the sand churns with smoke and blood, and the cries of the fallen echo across the waves. Omaha, Utah, gold Juno sword, 5 beaches where history is written with sacrifice. Apply, the defenders are dug in, fortified with concrete bunkers, machine guns, and artillery waiting to unleash death upon the invaders. For every yard gained, lives are lost. Apply, men crawl forward through barbed wire, mines and obstacles designed to drown them before they even reach the shore. Yet they do not turn back, they press on. Apply, driven by something greater than themselves. They are fighting not just for territory, but for freedom, for the hope of a world without tyranny. Hour by hour, Apply, the Allies claw their way inland. Paratroopers drop behind enemy lines, cutting off reinforcements. Engineers clear paths through obstacles under heavy fire. Apply. Small groups of soldiers break through defenses, their courage opening the way for thousands to follow. The beaches, once a slaughterhouse, become footholds. Apply, and from those footholds a new chapter of the war begins. By nightfall, the Allies hold ground in Normandy. It is not without staggering cost. Thousands lie dead or wounded. Apply, their sacrifice etched forever into history. But their victory is undeniable. The wall of Hitler's fortress Europe has been breached. D-Day marks the beginning of the end. Apply, the moment when the tide of war turns decisively against Nazi Germany. Within a year, the Allies will march into Berlin. Apply, and the world will witness the fall of the regime that sought to dominate it. D-Day is remembered not simply as a military triumph, but as a testament to bravery, unity, and sacrifice. Apply. Ordinary men from farms, cities, and towns across the world stood together against unimaginable odds. Apply. They carried the weight of freedom on their shoulders and left a legacy that still echoes today. Their footsteps on those beaches remind us that liberty has a price, and that sometimes, apply, the greatest battles are not fought for conquest, but for the right of humanity to live free. And so, as we look back on that longest day, apply, we honor the courage that stormed the beaches and changed the destiny of nations. These were moments where history bent, where empires fell. Apply, and where the future was written in fire and blood. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, apply, and share it with those who love history's greatest moments. Tell me in the comments, what epic battle should we uncover next? Should it be the Battle of Trafalgar? Apply, the American Civil War's Gettysburg, or something even more mysterious? Your voice will shape the next journey into the past.